I'm Cooper. I'm an addict. Right. Just don't move around too much, right? So, okay. Wow. Okay, so I'm not nervous at all. No problem here. Actually, and I just spent like the last hour and a half before this doing a workshop, so my voice is already a little dry because I got to talk for an hour and a half talking about world service, which I can talk about for hours before this. But it helped keep my brain occupied for a little while until I came to do this, because I defy anybody who's speaking at a convention not to be caught up in that for the day before. It's pretty, it can be a little grueling. It's not, I mean, I used to fight in tough man contests after I got clean. Yeah, I started fighting when I was 40 years old, just for shits and giggles, right? And well, actually I have one, but thank you very much. And I tell you that the jitters on the day of a fight were way worse than anything, because I know nobody here is going to try to kill me. At least I sure hope not. You know, I've certainly been cussed out a few times in Narcotics Anonymous, but probably we will get through this and nobody will get beat up, and so that's a good thing. I love Narcotics Anonymous. Seriously, I cannot begin to tell you, I'm going to try, how much Narcotics Anonymous means to me. And it's not like I have, you know, the most amazing story or anything. But the blessings that I have been given here are just, well, you know what they say about, you know, don't write down what you think you might have expected when you got here, because you'll be shortchanging yourself, and that's, yeah, that's a bit of an understatement. So I'll try to start at the beginning. I've lived in Lewisburg, West Virginia, and Greenbrier County, which is one of the most beautiful parts of the world, I believe. Almost all my life. I've lived on the same farm, my family's farm, almost my whole life, and that is what I have done almost all my working life, is work on that farm. So it was, you know, until very recently, I milked cows for a living. So I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning. Even when I was using, I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning and hit the bong and go milk cows every day. And so I had a really wonderful childhood. You know, I do this H&I meeting in a local prison for young adults, and you know, sometimes, you know, at the end we'll open it up and you hear people share about where they came from and the things that happened to them, and it can be like, well, no fucking wonder you use drugs, man. I mean, it's serious. I mean, it's like pretty horrific shit, and I'm like, you know, I have no excuse. You know, I must have been born this way. It's the only thing I can think of, because one day. And I didn't start until I was in college. I was like a good kid and played sports and had lots of friends and got good grades and went to Sunday school and all that shit. And one day I found drugs, you know, and that was it. You know, it was like, and you know, that first time that we find that buzz that we've been looking for, that feeling that we seek out for the rest of our using days, you know, I mean, I remember that clear as day. And I wanted to feel like that all the time. And it was, you know, and I pursued that every day on a daily basis. I mean, it was really like a switch got thrown, you know. And I went from a relatively happy, successful person to someone obsessed with using drugs 24/7 for the next 14 years. And I mean, I did manage to graduate from college using drugs every day. Not really sure how, but I did. Back in, you know, because I was in the late 70s, early 80s, and awareness of substance abuse was pretty minimal. It was just, you know, we just kind of, you know, it's just what everybody did then. So, you know, and we didn't have some of the some of the opioids that are available now, which I'm really grateful for, because I don't know if I'd have survived it, quite frankly. Smoked a lot of pot, did a lot of acid and mushrooms and coke and all that kind of shit. I mean, it was just party, man, right? And listened to a lot of Pink Floyd, and later on graduated. I still listen, to that drug music, and Motorhead T-shirt. Good job, dude. And so, but it at some point, it changed. It wasn't about just having a good time. It was, this was something I had to have. I could not function without it. That became what was normal, and not having it was painful. And so I worked really hard at making sure I had it, and I was good at making sure I had it. I didn't run out very often at all. I did not like suffering the pain of not using, And I came back home and, went to work on the farm and continued to use every day, got married, fooled around a lot, it was just like this long downhill slide that just, it seemed like nothing was enough. I know you all know what that feels like, because you're here. And, it was suggested to me, because I eventually I started, getting counseling because I was depressed, which, no wonder. And so it was suggested to me maybe I might want to stop putting drugs in my body on a daily basis. And maybe I thought about that for a while, and I actually tried to, stop for a minute, and I couldn't put together 2 days clean. All I could think about was when I was going to get high again, man. It was like, and I thought, well, even if I do manage to stop, all I'm going to think about is when I can get high again, so why am I even bothering with this shit, It's like, this is, but eventually the pain of living with the drugs started to become, I came to that place where I couldn't live with them and I couldn't live without them. Life became pretty unbearable in a lot of different ways. I was lying about something or hiding something from someone every day, and that wasn't who I was. And I bottomed out on self-hatred. I didn't bottom out on using drugs particularly. It was not like I woke up one day and didn't want to use. I don't think any of us did that. I got to a place where I just fucking hated myself all the time. I hated who I'd become. I hated the things I was doing. I knew shit that what I was doing wasn't right, and I was doing it anyway, and then lying and hiding it, and and it was like, I just hated myself, and I couldn't stop using. And unfortunately, I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, and I ended up in a treatment center in Lexington, Virginia, and I'm very fortunate, and there was a Narcotics Anonymous meeting that actually met in the hospital on Thursday night, which I'd been in there for a couple of days. I checked in on like a Monday, and they took us to some AA meetings, and they're nice people, okay, but I had a really hard time relating to them, because what I heard them talk about a lot of damage that I hadn't done, because I could give a shit about drinking, man. I really do not. Doesn't do it for me at all. And I knew where my car was, and so I don't really know what you're talking about. But they were nice, and they gave us coffee, and they told us we were glad we were there, and like, yeah, okay, whatever. And but I went to the Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and I still remember it very clearly. Walking in that room, and for the first time, I knew I was in a room of people that were just like me. I had that moment of identification without even talking to anybody in there. These people were just like me. I could tell, but they seemed, and unlike me, they seemed to be reasonably happy, and they weren't doing any drugs. At least they said they weren't doing any drugs, and that was not something I could put together at all. That just, nothing was funny anymore in my life. I'd lost my laugh. It was just, everything sucked. So I was like, I had that moment of identification and hope that if they could do it, maybe I could do it. And that was February 5th of 1991. And I picked up a white key tag, and I have not used any drugs since. Yeah. And that is the clearest delineation in my life. Before Narcotics Anonymous, I literally could not stop using drugs. I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I picked up a white key tag, I said I'm an addict, and I was able to stay clean. That's a fucking miracle. And maybe there's, some other way people will figure out how to do that. I don't know, but for me, that did it, That was I found exactly the right people at the right moment in my life, and thank God for it. Just blind luck, or God's plan, or whatever it is. And so I've been clean now for quite some time, which is another miracle, because it's not like I did everything right, I can tell you. I stopped getting high and I went to meetings, but I'm one of those people that after I stopped using, I got crazier, because I didn't have any drugs to buffer any of that behavior, and so there was still a lot of seeking ways to get high, just not with drugs, and but I survived it, fortunately, and stayed clean, and I'm here today. So there are some basic components of my recovery that I was taught early on that I still try to practice today, and it talks about them in our basic text, and what can I do? And it says we need to get clean. It doesn't matter how we get clean, just as long as we get clean. Come to meetings, go to meetings on a regular basis, get a sponsor, work the steps, and be of service. And that's it. That is the secret for me to staying clean in Narcotics Anonymous. And certainly, I have my experience with those things, but I haven't met anybody who didn't do those things who stayed clean, quite frankly. And the people that I relate to are the hardcore service junkies who have been really involved in giving back to this fellowship that has given us so much. So, it's kind of hard to tell the whole story anymore. So, God knows where I'm going to go with any of this. So there's all these thoughts that go through your head all day long, and then you get up here and it's like, what? So, I've had a sponsor pretty continuously since I got here. My first sponsor was a member of my home group, and it was an amazing experience, though, because I sat around and listened to people share for a while before I finally worked up the nerve to ask somebody to be my sponsor. And I heard this guy share, and without knowing it, God sent me to exactly the right person. And because he, those things that I was in the fifth step that I was never going to tell anybody, right? I saw that stuff on the wall in treatment and go, yeah, I'm doing that step, man. And he had been through those same things. When it came time to do that, it was no big fucking deal. He already knew my damn secrets. Hell, he'd lived them. Unfortunately, not too long after that, he relapsed, and which was, of course, took very personally. But, and I got another sponsor, and actually my second sponsor was a woman, and that worked for a while until I came to a place where I wasn't really getting what I needed. And I asked the guy who's my sponsor now. He's been my sponsor for like 18 years. I've had the same home group since I got clean for over 25 years now. we went through a really messy divorce about halfway through, and now we have two groups in Narcotics Anonymous that kind of sort of speak to each other. But, you know those group consciences that you hear about where fights break out? Yeah, we had one of those. Yeah, I got sucker punched, no shit. And fortunately, they kept us apart before it escalated from there, because I was ready to go, I liked fighting. And I mean, I do, I like fighting. So, but, we survived that, and now we have two groups, and which is cool. I've been going to this H&I meeting, the same H&I meeting since November of '92. It's at a prison for young adults, and it's one of the, I was recently filling out a service resume for a position at the World Service Conference, and one of the things they ask you is, talk about one of the most meaningful service experiences in your life, and it happens about every time we go in there. When I'm sitting there in that meeting and we start sharing, and you see that moment of identification and recognition in the eyes of the inmates in that facility, when they realize that there's people that are just like them that have found a way out, because nobody's offered them that yet. Some of them have been to meetings too, but some of them haven't. And every time that happens for me, I feel like I've, like my life has some purpose. Like I'm a worthwhile human being, actually, despite all my many faults and problems. I can actually do something good, and it's been a huge part of my recovery from very early on, and I still do it. I mean, I can't talk about my recovery without talking about service. And I can talk about service endlessly. Just catch me outside. I'm not the kind of person. I'm not a real outgoing person. I don't usually, start conversations until you get me in a service meeting. Okay, and then I've got, I have an opinion about everything, whether I need to or not. But I've learned so many lessons, being in all those meetings. Because it's not easy sitting in service meetings for long periods of time with people that are as passionate about Narcotics Anonymous as I am, because we don't always agree, and we're not always good about disagreeing. Sometimes that section in the basic text where it's in the third tradition where it talks about an addict, you can threaten them, beating them, pray over them, cajole them, whatever. I've had all that shit happen to me in service, okay? And guess what? You can't fucking run me off, because it's been tried, okay? I've been called everything, I've been cussed out any number of times and told what a horrible asshole I am. And that shit when we say in the traditions about you're an asshole, yeah, that shit's real, man, okay? And if I didn't have the desire that I have, the love that I have for Narcotics Anonymous, I might have let some of that shit run me off. But I don't know. What I've learned is that it's, disagreeing is part of life. If everybody's agreeing all the time, something's fucking wrong. Okay? There's like some serious codependency or something going on there, okay? Because it's just not normal for actual whole human beings to agree on shit all the time. It just doesn't happen, okay? That's in any relationship, whether it's, husband, wife, sponsor, sponsee, friends, we're going to disagree. I mean, one of the reasons I asked Kay to introduce me is because she is one of the people that I will let correct me without question, okay? I mean, I need people in my life who are going to tell me, dude, you're saying shit, just shut up now, okay? Just shut up. And she doesn't say that, but that's the message, and I go, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I need to shut up now. Okay? And so that's one of the valuable things about being in those service meetings that are really difficult, is that, I learned to deal with people that we're not agreeing, and not only that, but learn how to where we can have those disagreements without being complete and total assholes to each other, which is actually possible. It does happen, okay? And there's some, actual tools that we can learn to do that stuff, and it's not like some big fucking mystery, to carry our service principles, our recovery into our service efforts. It's a good thing, but it's not, I don't mind the fight either, quite frankly. I've stood up at the World Service Conference and had the World Board President tell me why my suggestion was totally fucked, and you learn just got to stand there and smile and say, okay, thank you very much, and go sit down, and it's learning not to take all those things personally is not easy. It's not, but that's a lot of, negotiating the world is like that. That's one of the reasons I use drugs, because I couldn't negotiate the fucking world. And one of those great struggles that I still have is negotiating, life outside of narcotics. Here I'm totally cool, okay? I can be who I want to be. I can say whatever the fuck comes in my mind. I don't care. I can stand up here and cuss and all that shit. It's cool, okay? But out there, it's a whole other thing, okay? People aren't always, as forgiving as we are. We don't all hug each other afterwards in the outside world, So, people get real resentments, then take them back out on you later, And so one of the great values of doing service work in Narcotics Anonymous is learning how to live with the human beings that I just happen to coexist with in the rest of this world. And it's not like I'm a real people person or anything. Just ask anybody. I'm not. I don't. It's not. I struggle still with interaction with other human beings. It's not. It's better than it used to be, but half the time, people are, people are sitting around just talking about stuff, and I'm like having a really hard time just giving a shit about anything that's going on, there's a part of me that wants to isolate and feel different from, and still to this day, even though I've been clean and worked these steps and done all this service work, I still lapse into that thinking that, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I be like everybody else? They look like they're happy. How come I'm not happy like they're happy? As far as I know, I'll always deal with that stuff because it's part of being human. I guess that's the great gift that I've gotten today is, before I came here, I was a miserable son of a bitch. I was just a guy looking for my next buzz. Just like life happened to me. Okay? I had, as I heard one addict say, I'd been reduced to a minor speaking role in my own life, and today is not like that at all. I've been blessed in so many ways. I have a family. We have 5 children at home. We're married. Been married for the longest I've ever been with one person. My God, and it's not like it started off real spiritual or anything either. I can assure you. Okay, I'll tell that story another time, but I took the regional secretary hostage. So anyway, but it worked out. God damn, it fucking worked out, 12, 13 years later, we're still together. We have all these kids, and life is good. I have relationships with, with my family, with people that I work with, I certainly struggle with them from time to time. But life is so much better than it was. And I guess that's one of the reasons I'm still here is these gifts that have been given to me. I don't know. There's so many different reasons for still being here. One of them is I like the life I have. I want to keep it. I want to keep doing the things that brought me here and gave me this life. Another one is that I want other people to find what I've found. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about service in Narcotics Anonymous is because there are still millions of people out there who don't know what we have. And, and the medical profession has now decided that the best way to deal with them is to put them on different drugs, And we want to tell them that they're not clean so they don't feel welcome here. And it's like, oh, okay, everybody calm down, there's... I want so much for people to find what I have found here. I want, and not only that, but I want people who are not addicts to recognize what we are and what we can do. I want this fellowship to be respected as I want to say necessarily the only way, but a viable method of recovery from the disease of addiction, which quite frankly, there's a lot of people that have questions about that. I know that we believe it, we're here, okay? But there are a lot of people still out there. We're the lucky ones. We get to be clean today. We have found the answer. If we never have to use drugs again, okay? But there are children being born into this every day. There are people dying from this every day without hearing the message that we have to offer. And so one of the things one of the reasons I put so much effort into the service that I do is to let the world, not just the addict, let the world know who we are and what we do. Okay, and that what we have here is more than just a life without drugs. Okay? Because that's all it seems to be. Anything anybody else can think, well, we'll give you these drugs so you can get off of those drugs, but, fuck the rest of it. Okay? And I'd still be out there because it wouldn't have been, I don't know about that. If I had what I had when I was still using, fuck, I'd still be using. Why wouldn't I? Okay? The gifts that I've been given here, these are what make life worth living. These are the things when I stop and I get the tears and it's not this is tears of joy. I mean, it is, and gratitude is just so overwhelming to me. If I stop and think about my family and my children, and it's going to happen again, and it's unbelievable. Okay, that I could go from a guy who thought only about his own obsession with using, getting and ways and finding ways and means to get more, to being, a father and a husband and a worthwhile member of my community, where I couldn't get it at church, I couldn't get it from counseling, I couldn't find it in AA, I couldn't, only Narcotics Anonymous has been able to give that to me. And it's not like I'm unique or special, it's not like, you guys are here, you guys know what I'm talking about, okay? But there are still so many people out there that don't know about us yet, or don't believe in us for whatever reason. And so it's important to me, how I behave when I get out of here. Because in a small town, I do represent Narcotics Anonymous. I can't live in the place that I live without people knowing I go to those meetings. And people that I've known for years, their kids are now coming to the meetings, and shit like, so it's like, it matters how I behave and what kind of, how I act in the rest of the world. The problem with Narcotics Anonymous is there's all those addicts there, and thank God. But, a lot of the world looks at that way. That's where all those fucking addicts are. How to, when we announce, that there's going to be a picnic somewhere, look for the signs, and the sign is, look for the addicts smoking and cussing. And that's how a lot of the world views us. And there's a reason for that, because that's frequently how we present ourselves. And guess what? It reflects on Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not saying that we all have to cut our hair, because clearly I didn't fucking do that. Or stop cussing, or stop smoking, or any of that stuff, okay? I'm just saying be aware of it. That's all I'm saying. I try to be aware of it. It makes a difference. And I'll throw this out there. If you didn't pay the $20 to register, that money goes to help us carry the message to the addict that still suffers. That money goes to, we've managed to put up an actual couple of billboards in the state. That there's, yeah. Okay. we had one of the local news crews out filming, about all the drug epidemic out in front of our sign, okay? I mean, we need to let the world know we're here, okay? And while remaining in anonymity. And that's a difficult job, I know there's this whole other movement that says, yeah, we have to stand up and do all that shit, and it's like, not me. But, we need to let the world know who we are without breaking our anonymity. And one of the ways we can do that is through the PR work that we do. One of the ways we can do that is in the H&I work that we can do. One of the ways we can do that is to put up, the flyers with the local 800 number. There are so many ways to get involved in service in Narcotics Anonymous. Realize sitting in service meetings is not for everybody. I understand that. And quite frankly, if you all fucking came, we would never get anything done. So, but it's not to say we couldn't use more people, because there is so much yet to be done. I'll never be able to repay what's been given to me in Narcotics Anonymous. I'll never be able to repay all the love that you have given to me. It's literally, I've literally been able to go, to different parts of the world, walk into a meeting, and I have friends. Where else can you do that, okay? You walk into a meeting and people give you your phone numbers, And I remember because I was in a meeting in London and people were giving me their phone numbers and somebody, are you going to know who you're calling? And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? They're addicts too. They suffer just like we have, and they found the answer just like we have. There are over 65,000 meetings a week around the world in Narcotics Anonymous. Okay. When I got clean in 91, there were about 5,000. Yeah. It's a big fucking deal. It's a big fucking deal. So, I love you guys. You have given me a gift with beyond value. And I'm eternally grateful. And I will work as hard as I can to give it back as much as I can. Thank you very much.